Greetings, magical mavens. The wheel of the year has turned again, and it's time for all the cozy home and hearth vibes of the winter solstice season. But before I got to settle in for winter, I first had to unsettle my entire life to move into my new home. This past fall, I set the intention to be settled into a more aligned domestic space before the solstice, and my spell has come to fruition. But it's still, well, moving. So naturally, chaos has ensued between closing out the old chapter and unpacking into my new one. And of course, work had to continue as usual with holiday content and promotions, filling Yuletide orders, serving my patrons in the Writing Witch Coven, and countless other tasks. Getting vlogs out had to take a little bit of a back burner, but I wanted to share with you the moments of magic that took place between Samhain and the Yule season. So I'm sharing a 3-part series of my magical winter transition, starting with my enchanting endeavors from October. I invite you to cozy up with a comforting beverage, and let's make some magic. This past fall, I did a custom journal inspired by my client's favorite movie, Legend. I did a full flip through of one of the 3 versions I made, but I just wanted to show you the cover I chose for my client. Each of the 3 had the same pages, but 3 different vintage images for the covers, and this one was my favorite. If you have an idea for your own custom journal, or if like this client you'd like me to surprise you with an idea based on your interests, I would love to work with you. The link to commission me is on the screen now and is also linked down below. I also did a big shop update for my other Etsy store this fall, Hestia's Hearth Home Shop. And even though that shop is almost completely sold out at the moment, I thought it would be fun and relaxing to share with you the magical ASMR footage I recorded when I was promoting these vintage simmer pots and cauldrons. And if you happen to love this antique silver teapot, you're in luck because I just listed a nearly identical one in the shop, only slightly larger. And at the time of me posting this, it has not yet sold. So if you have your eye on it, I invite you to check out the link below. Yes, it has been a really busy and hectic time lately, but I'm really proud of myself for staying committed to at least somewhat consistent downtime for relaxation and self-care. And in the fall and winter months, for me, sometimes that looks like just getting cozy on the couch after a long day of work with movies, a seasonal snack, and the cat. As I do with my slow living version of celebrating the seasonal Sabbats, for me, spooky season extends at least into November, and honestly, to our ancestors, the winter solstice time was just another part of spooky season, being the darkest time of the year after all. For a full list of my favorite spooky movies and TV shows, I invite you to go back if you haven't already and watch my late fall seasonal bucket list video. And in my witchy practice, witchcraft and ritual are also parts of self-care. Sometimes a wise witch knows that the best way to create a life of stability and flow is to first shake things up a bit. This past fall for me was a strange yet fitting dance between being as cozy and grounded and hearth and home energy as possible, while also casting a spell to manifest an ideal home before the winter solstice. There were several different parts of the spell spanning across the entire season. A cleansing ritual bath here, some candle magic there, scripting how my winter solstice would feel in my new home, and writing out my incantations. Using tarot for both divination on what steps to take and as a visual tool for manifesting my desired reality. Evoking the archetype of Persephone for transformation, and working with Bast's energy for protection and to ensure that the spell will also benefit my cat. Pulling out all the spell ingredients that resonate with my intention and using them in various ways in various little rituals as intuition calls. This hectic yet empowering chapter of my life really called upon me to lean into my witchiness more than I have in a long time. I mean, I consider everything I do to be a form of witchcraft, since I really do infuse just about everything with magical intent. But for this phase, I really got extra witchy with it and did more focused spells and rituals, and it felt good. It reminded me that my whole witchy journey really started when I did my first home manifestation spell a decade ago around the winter solstice. And while my path has taken me through many different modalities, it has always circled back around to manifesting, honoring, and protecting the concept of home. I didn't know how it was all going to go, but I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this new home that I was manifesting this time was going to be exactly what I needed to really shift all of the stuck feeling energy in my life that for me was always linked to living in a place that didn't resonate with me. And it was that sense of knowing that got me through the countless hurdles that were thrown at me on my quest. One thing that really helped to keep me on track, both with my magical and tangible goals, was my lunar astrology and seasonal journal prompts. For each of the main 4 moon phases, the Writing Witch Coven members and I respond to a prompt that helps us harness the moon's phase and astrological sign each week. The prompts always come up at the perfect time to help me understand and move through whatever I'm going through in my life at the time. Like this last quarter moon in Cancer prompt, which perfectly illustrated how I was releasing my old bitter energy of living in the apartment building so I could make room for the truly cozy and protected energy that I was calling in for my new home. Another way I released the old to make room for the new was by completely cleansing and resetting the energy of my tarot deck. I manifested discovering the tarot and getting my first deck about 10 years ago, shortly after that first successful home spell. And thinking back to that time, it occurred to me that I might have never actually physically cleaned the entire deck since then. And even though it was a little bit emotional for me that my cards still held a little of the energy of every reading that I've ever done, and all the fingerprints of everyone I've ever read for in person, including my dad and a friend who passed on Halloween, both of whom were some of the first people I ever read for besides myself, I knew it was time to release the past. Time to clear the way for totally new vibes and different feeling readings for the next decade of my life. So I energetically cleansed the deck with herbal smoke, reset them by putting them all in order, and physically cleaned them with soapy vinegar water and a cotton ball. And boy, had they been dirty. It's funny how the seasonal and astrological energies often fit so perfectly with what's going on in our lives. It was on the waning quarter moon that I received a lease renewal letter in the mail from my old housing company, informing me that come January I would be paying $300 more per month to continue living in the same far from ideal circumstances, which by the way is like $500 more than the amount that I originally signed up for. And I conjured my sacred rage into a burning ceremony, where I burned the letter and the form they wanted me to sign my soul away on to agree to the terms. And damn, it felt good. And as soon as it was finished burning, I immediately started downsizing, packing, and seriously looking for a new home. Did you know that food can be medicine and medicine can be food? Our ancestors knew this, and I'm really enjoying relearning it now. I was happy to have happened upon wild raspberries, not just because I've been buying raspberry leaf tea for menstrual health for years, but also because I had just recently learned that even the fruit have healing properties. I'd also just learned that rose hips have more vitamin C in them than any citrus fruit, and I had a great plan for what to do with both of these berries. Last year, I made my first fire cider, a potion many herbalists make every fall and winter to boost the immune system and prevent colds and flus. Everyone makes theirs a little different depending on what they like and what they have available, and this year I was excited to include many things that I had grown, harvested, and or preserved myself. Now, I put everything but the kitchen sink in here, almost literally, so there isn't time to go over everything I used and why in this video, but I do love to document what I put in my fire cider each year. So I've designed a printable grimoire page that goes over the basics of fire cider from both a magical and a medicinal perspective. And I included a list on the back of what I used and why, plus an additional page where you can fill in what you end up putting in yours this year and next year. I'm going to be sharing this page with patrons on all tiers in the Writing Witch Coven, and I would love to invite you to join us. of the most magical foraging adventures that I got to do this past season was making wine from all of the foraged grapes that I had slowly gathered over the course of the previous month. Not only did I find some really sweet, juicy Concord-esque grapes in my local park, but my sister also randomly, not knowing that I was looking for them, ended up finding an absolute ton of them in her local park, which is now my local park. So I ended up gathering an absolute ton of them. The ones that my sister found were kind of more on the sour side, but they were still good, so I blended them all together. At first I tried to get really fancy with some kind of makeshift double boiler situation, like something I thought I saw online, but ultimately the easiest and most straightforward way was simply to put a little bit of water over the grapes and boil them down. Then I strained them off to create a very potent juice, and I actually realized that the grapes started to make my fingers really itch, and I think they're just so acidic that they started to irritate me. And thankfully, I don't get that sensation from drinking the juice, but having my hands constantly in the raw juice, I probably will wear gloves next time. To make the wine, I simply waited for the juice to cool, added a little bit of extra sugar because that's something we do in the home fermentation process for making wine, and nothing fancy, I just threw in some regular old bread yeast. Now, there are definitely wine-making snobs out there who would definitely shun me for using regular yeast instead of some kind of fancy wine yeast, but I just wanted to show you that we can get creative with what we have, and this wine turned out so good in the end. I put it in a dark place and allowed it to ferment for a while, checking it every few days to see how it was doing, and in the end, it ended up being a very sour but very good Concordy type of wine. I did end up adding a little bit of extra sugar just to make it a little bit sweeter, but it ended up so good. And as with all of the magical brews that I've been brewing up lately, I considered this another prosperity and abundance ritual to celebrate the abundance of the harvest, and I of course included some of it as offerings on my altar.
go. Let go. Let me have it. Let me have it. I said let me have it.
Looks like.
I'll have fun with it without giving it up.